2021 at 7:32 p.m. Could we have a roll call?
Where is Tracy? Not that
Where's
she's not
Tracy? Yeah.
bored.
Good point.
Tell you what, I
There
will
she is. She just texting me she has issues connecting, but I saw her entering.
Oh,
Okay, well, I'll do a
So-
roll call. Director Slater Carter,
Present.
Director Lohman,
yes, here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Jim.
Hi, yes.
I'm reading names off of the, you get the name you get.
It's a first name basis here.
Director Harvey.
Here.
All right, Director Boyd is here, so all five are present. I don't have a president's statement tonight. Let's go to, do we have any oral comments for items other than those on the agenda?
Yes. That's me.
I'm sorry, did I see any hands?
Oh, there it is.
Catherine?
Yes, thank you. On next door, there was a comment about the lack of rain for California. Apparently, this is one of the 3 driest years in the last 150 years. I wanted to bring that up for any number of reasons. We've all been through droughts. We've all been through having to reduce our water usage. We've all been through times where, before this district took control of the water district, we didn't even have water that made it to the top of some hills, and we had some hydrants in the community with no pressure. This is a particularly dry year. We have approximately half the rainfall to date of what we had in all of the rainfall last year. I'm hoping, praying we get more rain for all of us, including California. There hasn't even been there. All the snow at the hills until this last set of storms was man-made. It's something we're going to have to pay attention to and plan for. And so I when the public hears this eventually, I mean, they're going to be hearing it more. I just wanted to tell folks, if you want to see the cumulative rainfall for the last, on a chart for the last 3 years, go to MWSD.Montara.org and click on local weather. You can see the balanced hydrologic graphs. They're the most accurate graphs for this area. If you click on the link for balanced hydrologics, you can see the rainfall charts from when we started having our own rain gauges to present. Or you can also get, oh, thank you, Scott. You can also see the rain as measured at the airport. It's not a complete data set, but you can, the rain for at the airport from 1948 to 2012. And so it's as usual, just interesting, nerdy kind of stuff, but it does show people, and it does help us understand that this year we are living in a desert. And so you may need to be thinking about whether you really want to water the lawn or not, if you even want to have a lawn, and those kinds of things. But it's just interesting to note, as you can see on the screen, we're at 8.66. We're slightly over half of the total we had last year, and we're way down from the total we had the year before that, which was 29 inches. And we are only at we're less than 1/3 of the average annual. So we're not even going to make the average annual. Um, just a thought, and just asking folks to pay attention, check their toilets for leaks, turn the water off when you brush your teeth, all that kind of stuff. Because we're short on water. Not that we are short on water. We will be able to meet our demands, I believe. But it's better to keep the water, to take care of our watershed. Thank you.
Okay. Let me get back to my agenda here. Do we have any other comments for items not on the agenda? Not seeing any. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any items for discussion by the board? If not, can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
So moved by Catherine, seconded by Rick. The motion is to approve the consent agenda. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. All 11 items are approved. Thank you. And I think this reflects some good staff work, especially with a member of the community. Thank you for everyone working together on that. Let's go to no old business. Let's go to new business item 1, review and possible action concerning the mid-year budget review.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. This is something that we introduced some years back. Just kind of like a look at how are the funds balance sheets and revenue expenditure. That's the budget versus actual reports, and we bring it to the full board's attention. Peter has prepared this report, as he does with the monthly reports as well. And I'd like to hand the word over to you, Peter. Maybe you can tell us, what you're seeing. We're probably going to look at that executive summary mainly. So whenever you're ready, just take it away, Peter.
Frantically search through my briefcase for a writing instrument. This question's gonna pop up. I'm not finding one.
Where's your mask, Rick?
I'll just mute.
Okay, guys. Well, as Clement said, yes, this has been a number of years that we've been presenting the mid-year budget review. This is just our halfway point to see how we're performing. This kind of leads us right into the fiscal year 21-22 budget season. After this month, we'll have 7 months of data here in the next couple of days after we get through January. After February, we really start to project out for the rest of the fiscal year and start to build the budget based on what we have and what we know is on the horizon. This is, like I said, just to kind of get myself, Clemens, staff, as well as the finance committee kind of in the mindset that we've crossed that midway point, and this is how we're performing as compared to budget. And like I said, the format is something that I think we're all very comfortable with, as far as it's the same. It's really the same format that we have for all of our budget reviews. That's the actual budget, the mid-year, as well as the fiscal year-end budget to actual. So with that, we have our first 2 pages in your packet. And I said, I think these are the most important parts because as you'll see, our revenues are, so what we're looking for is about 50% all the way down. And it's pretty much what we have on the expenditure side. For the revenue side, we're a little bit above for certain items. For example, on the sewer side, the one that's major is fees. And like I said, we've collected some money at the beginning of the year. This one here, boom. So this one was mainline extension fee was kind of the big blip here, but in dollar amounts, it's not too bad, but according to budget, it's well over 100%. But like I said, our revenue is tracking, service charges as well as property tax are both higher. A lot of this has to do with just the timing of the county. We get a very large distribution in December, which kind of carries us, but I mean we're dry from pretty much July through December, so that rely a lot on budgeting as well as the constant inflow of water receipts. So that's what I'm seeing on the sewer side. Everything else, I said, for the expenditure side, we're tracking pretty well. Nothing really to note there. On the water side, same for the revenue. I saw the question. Is it property tax? We split it 50-50. Once again, we do not budget for ERAF, but we've received $137,000, which is split 50-50 between water and sewer. So that's the blip there. Expenditure side, we are, I said, for the most part, tracking relatively well. Engineering is down. Water quality engineering, we had quite a bit last year, so we budgeted for it. Now we're just not seeing those numbers repeat. And for the expenditures that we do have, a lot of them are capital in nature, so they're going to be capitalized. So that really kind of tells a story. For the collection, we're high there. We had some months. So at the beginning of the year, as well as this last month, we had, $4,000. No, yeah, about $5,000 paid to R&B for various maintenance of sewer lines. At the beginning of the year, we had a large project performed by Masa at Virginia Avenue. So we see a bit of out of budget there at the beginning of the year. I expect that to come more in line as the year moves on, save anything kind of unforeseen taking place. So with that, like I said, I'd like to turn it over to questions because I just drone on and on about that. The next few pages, I said, are just the comparison at the midway point to last year, followed by our full GL with the full detail and some comparative numbers for all accounts that we budget. So.
But before we get it back to Peter with questions, I just wanted to harp one more time on the water sales number, because I think that's actually, for me, one of the more interesting numbers. We have a very changed situation due to COVID. And there has been a lot of questions on how this really affects the water consumption. And this is really a little bit the answer to it. So you see that we are actually a little bit above what we expect. So it's not far off whatsoever, but we see a slight increase in water sales. And that is a little bit the story that we have to tell, really. So we know that every agency is in a different position there. For ours, the current COVID situation means that we're actually selling a little bit more water.
Yes, a bit more. And we've actually been, I think we've talked about this. The state has asked us questions and to fill out surveys and to give more information. And, we've been kind of the same line as far as we're tracking relatively well in terms of budget. We didn't budget an increase at all just because we anticipated that consumption would go down. And granted, like I said, this was when we were developing these figures, this was pre-COVID. So as a part of that conversation, I think we are doing well in that regard.
What surprises me a little in the budget for water is the water reliability charge. I thought a part of that would have come in with the property taxes, and I see a zero in that column. What happened there?
Well, yes, I've noticed the same thing. I've been asking questions as well. Have we had any correspondence with the county asking about when we should expect the first assessment rolling in? And we haven't heard any word from the county.
Oh, so odd. And the other thing I would suggest, in order to improve a little on the financial reporting to the board and also to the financial committee, is I would ask you in your monthly reporting to include the restricted and non-restricted cash assets, which you have
Okay.
done from month to month. I missed that in today's presentation, but I think from now on, we should just have it in there. So
Okay.
as for everybody to see how much cash do we have in the account for Wells Fargo, how much cash do we have in the reserves, how much are we under the reserves, I think that would help.
Okay.
Then, and you're automatically making it anyhow, I'm assuming. And then the other thing is, I would also like us to be periodically updated on the situation with the loans. Where are we with the loans? How much is still outstanding? The last update you had was on 6/30/2020. I think we could have another update on 12/31/2020.
Noted.
So Peter, are you asking for what's in the funds balance sheet to be called out in
Yes.
an additional place?
Yeah, well, Peter already has made these presentations in the past, and he can just add it to his Excel spreadsheets.
I see. So I mean, I'm just asking, so on the funds balance sheet back on page 45 of the packet, for example, we've got the unrestricted water equity accounts. The numbers are there in the monthly report. What I'm asking is, are you asking for this to be included in this kind of
I
report?
asked them to be separately presented in the way that Peter Medina has done it in the past.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
Peter's, I'm sorry, Peter. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you go, Jim.
Peter, could you refresh my memory? What is the current interest rate for our bonds, our geo bonds at this moment? When we refinanced, at what interest rate did we do that?
It
Bear
was
with me. Sorry, you go.
1.14%.
Wow.
Yes, and we'll see the full impact after fiscal year. And as I said, the budget was based on the previous amortization schedule, which was at a higher interest rate. So I said, we will see the savings as the years go on as well.
Good.
I noticed that the other loans are at 2.95, 3.05, and 2.28. It would be nice if we could refinance those as well.
We actually, during the GO bond refi, we talked about that and we looked at some of those. I know we decided not to on some loans, but I'll pick up the question with Alex and run it by him one more time.
Because that difference between the 1.19 and the 3.05 is quite dramatic.
Yes, but the 1.14 is very specific. It's, first of all, it's GO bonds and it is an 8-year remaining runtime. So we were, I mean, the conditions are so specific on those loans that we were able to get really good, that interest rate, that very good interest rate. But you are correct. We may not get a 1.14 on the others. Interest rate situation is currently such that everybody should look at their loans. And yes,
The current,
we did that about 2 months ago, but let's look at that one more time.
Right.
I can tell you that the current good home interest rate for refi right now is 2.69. That's a good interest rate for a home. 2.69 for 15 years, you can get 2.2, 2.1, or all the way for 30 years. 2.69 is good. 2.75 is probably the higher rate.
My kids just got 2.8 today, so as a reference. I remember Wisconsin when we had 14.
I remember when we bought our first home 45 years ago, it was 18.
Wow.
Oh, those young people laugh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, all those young people saying they can't afford to get into a home at all at any price. All right, do we have any more questions or discussion on this one? Well, thank you for putting that together, Peter. Let's move to the next item, strategic discussion about the future of MWSD's sewer system on February 17th and water system on March 3rd of this year.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. So this is an invitation to two strategic discussions. We will separate those out between the sewer side and the water side. We'll see that there is really a connection. At the end of these discussions, we will talk about similar things, but it's a very different path and still very different infrastructure that we have to look at. So it's really the big picture that we are trying to present to the community and also get input from the community. So it's more a mid to long term outlook on our systems, our infrastructure, the district really. We sent out postcards. They should have gone out today.
Right, correct. In the
Um,
mail, they should have hit the mail today. You'll see them Saturday, maybe at the earliest, I think.
Okay, yes. So Saturday, everybody in the district will have postcards alerting them to dates and to events. We encourage everybody to participate. It's a little bit easier to alert everyone to the March 3rd event because we still have a lot more time. Both of these are also included in the newsletter that's going out to one part of town this month that already went out. So that information could be already in some inboxes by now, I believe. Once more, it's scheduled for 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 17. That's the sewer discussion. And we have a water discussion that's scheduled for Wednesday, March 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And we hope that many people can attend and talk with us through, the directions that we think we can take in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So it's just an informationary item, and it again will have more information that's being sent to our customers. It will be board meetings, so we expect the board members to participate, to be present and participate. Is there anything else that we need to talk about this, Allison? Did I forget anything?
I would just add that, just to make sure for both of these, we will provide a bit of background. So we give a baseline of how the systems are set up and operating today. So a little education piece, along with regulatory framework, like what you have to consider when you're operating the systems, and then really just a guided discussion about some details about things that people typically ask about: desal, recycled water, etc., alternative treatment types of things. So that's sort of the context.
Yeah, thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
Do we have any, I see Catherine, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to add that at SAM, at Montara's request, a new committee has been formed to look at SAM for the next 40 years or so, which is a little far out for a capital improvement program. But for long-range planning, if you don't have a plan, you are essentially planning to fail. And there's a lot of things environmentally changing and technologically changing. So Sam has put together a committee of the member agencies and the public to participate with the committee to look at these options. there is so much changing, and I would like to make sure we have a little bit of the 17th looking for ideas from the public that we can explore there. When I initially got on the Montara Sanitary District, a citizen came in and was asking why we hadn't gone with a newer form of sewer plant instead of just rebuilding the 19th century design. Considering this was 1999 and things had changed a little bit. And essentially it was because Sam hadn't looked at it. They had been looking at other things and they just decided to fix and expand the old system. That's going, now that we're getting to the point where parts are hard to get and things are breaking down that the federal government paid for, and now we're expected as a community to pay for these things. It's time to look at what we can do to improve things, improve environmentally, improve operationally, and improve structurally as well. So I'm hoping we can do that, and I'm asking anybody watching this video, hi Michelle, and Greg, to ask people to think about what kinds of things we could be doing. We could have packaged treatment plants and all kinds of different things. The technology is getting cheaper and better. Why should we have to send all our stuff down a 7-mile pipeline when we could turn it into something that can be trucked away and use the water to recharge our groundwater? Let's start thinking in terms of the realities of the coming century. Thank you.
Greg Diegas.
I just posted your strategic planning sessions on Nextdoor with a comment. I could use a chart or a map that shows the IPS connecting Montara to SAM. If somebody has one already made, I'm going to be writing about this very soon. So Clemens, if you or your staff already have a chart that shows that, I'd really appreciate a copy.
Greg, let me interject that Sam has one, and you might want to get one of the entire system. So because since Nextdoor
I've got
also
that.
goes to Granada.
I got plenty of details. What I need is just a one image kind of chart, because I can't attach all the detail I have to an article.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, let's move on to next item, review and possible action concerning nomination of representative to the CSDA, the California Special Districts Association Board of Directors.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the California Special Districts Association is doing good work, as it says, for all special districts in California. Rick is actually active at the local chapter here in San Mateo County and has raised the interest to participate maybe even a little more. And so seat A is actually open, and that is now, they redistricted, I guess. They call this now the Bay Network, formerly Region 3. And so what we have in front of us here is a resolution that would support Rick Lohman's candidacy for seat A of the CSDA board.
So moved.
That's what we're asking the board to adopt.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, oh, Rick?
No, I just,
Rick says no. Rick declines.
no, I just, I'd like to keep trying this because I think a lot of the time, all the big boards, have this, and it would be nice if we can actually convince them to have a co-side member from kind of a slightly smaller district to give them a more balanced view of what the real world is out here. So I volunteered to try, and I'll get my little resume together and we'll submit an application if this resolution passes. So,
A balanced view from
Particularly,
the
I'm
Northern
particularly
Kingdom.
interested in,
Oh, go ahead,
sorry.
Peter.
I'm particularly interested in seeing if CSDA can help us get that COVID support that they're fighting for at the state level.
there have been a whole bunch of discussions on that. I'll bring it up again at the chapter meeting thing further down the menu, the agenda. But there are some funds available. Legal fees are not included, things like that, but they talked about that. If we can get together expenses that we can consider directly related to COVID, we can apply for grants. There's not a lot of funding, but we can certainly give it a shot. So,
What do you
Right.
say, Clemens?
Well, I mean, so far we haven't seen a dime, quite frankly.
yeah.
That's what I have to say. I mean, we applied everywhere. And, I mean, the funds are structured such that it is geared towards supporting large agencies. And that has been our problem. We are just not spending enough on masks and hand sanitizers to be eligible for a refund. And everything that we spent money on, like laptops, for example, is not reimbursable. Additionally, there was money promised from the state, and we haven't seen anything coming through. Also federal. We have not seen anything come through to the infrastructure, unfortunately.
We are starting to see the federal government starting to provide some funding, for example, on the housing for homeless. Those funds are coming in now from the Fed to the state, and they're backdating it, making it, all the way back to the start of the pandemic. So I think we're starting to see some things unlocked and money flowing. So I'm going to be optimistic about it, that some additional relief may come through. But is there any action that we might take that might improve odds? I mean, Rick can bring it up at CSDA, but anything else?
If elected, I will fight.
I mean, we had direct contact with the folks from Cal OES, for example, that are involved in this. The sewer pumps that we had to replace at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought would be perfect. None of that. That's fruitless discussions. That's all not reimbursable, unfortunately. It's very specific, very targeted, and it does not go much beyond hand sanitizers, masks. The dollar amounts are so elevated that, I mean, we're not going to spend thousands of dollars in hand sanitizer and masks just to get reimbursed. It doesn't make any sense. So it's very unfortunate. I don't see the need for these dollar limits except to sort out the small agencies.
Catherine?
I would suggest that we talk to our local electeds at the state level and ask them for that, because they're leaving more people out, or a whole lot of people out, and they ought to be talking percent of budget instead of an absolute dollar amount to make it equitable.
I'll write that down. Thank you.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Loman,
Sure.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Rick. You have our backing. Let's see, I'm scrolling to the next item on the agenda. Okay, review of MWSD's receipt of Association of California Water Agencies Joint Powers Authority President's Special Recognition Award. I think that might get an award for one of the longer agenda item titles.
Yeah, thank you. And the Association of California Water Agencies Joint Powers Authority, let's call it Aqua JPIA, okay? So that's essentially the insurance that we use on the water side. So particularly the workers' comp insurance we're getting through Aqua JPIA. And so what this item really says is that we did not have any workers' comp claims for a certain period. And that is an achievement because we did have an issue with workers' comp claims at one point and worked hard to get the numbers down and low. And so now we have the fifth of this awards. So 5 years in a row, no workers' comp claims. That's a success, and that's why we're bringing it to the board.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right.
I would just like to say that if elected to the California Special District Association, I will initiate a law that all agency acronyms be limited to 4 characters. So.
What about the sub acronyms? Catherine?
I just wanted to give a congratulations to Keishan, I'm sorry, to Clemens. I'm on the hard C sound Rolodex. And also to the crew. I think the entire crew deserves a big thank you. And I'm hoping that Clemens and the crew can figure out some kind of way to for the board to show our appreciation to the crew. They're an awesome set of guys, and so I don't know if what would be appropriate, a dozen roses each, or a giant pizza, or a gift certificate to Hop Dogma. I don't know, but this doesn't happen by accident. This happens by having a crew that's very aware of safety. And I'm sure everyone on this board expresses our deepest thanks to each and every one of them. And if nothing else, maybe we can find one of those giant cards that says, congratulations on a great achievement. You guys are terrific.
First of all, I'll say here, here. Second of all, when we have our public forums in February and March, we should mention all of this. So
I'd like to say, Clemens, thank you for instilling a safety culture and doing a lot of activities to actually tangibly support and engender the team being safe. And I hope they're watching later, but if you could convey our gratitude for their attention to safety. I heartily agree with Catherine. Being accident free isn't an accident. It comes from being intentional and mindful and working in a way that keeps everyone safe. And there's nothing we do that's worth any one of our team getting hurt. So I really appreciate that people are taking the time to do it right and taking the right approaches. So good job.
Right, thanks, Scott. We'll relay the message. Mhm.
It's a work product. It's one of those where I'm really glad that Aqua JPIA called this out. It gives us an opportunity to reflect and realize we get something that our community doesn't necessarily have any reason to pay attention to. They might if it went the other way, but the absence of news is great news. So thanks for putting this on the agenda and helping us all think about this for a minute. Catherine?
I think it would be a good thing to put in an upcoming newsletter as a headline to call out how our crew is very careful in doing the jobs they do. These are not easy jobs, and some of them are potentially very hazardous. And so I think that we should put it in a newsletter, and heads up, community. We have a great crew, and really all you ever see is them on the side of the road working, and you don't realize what great crew they are.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that they do once they head to the truck that doesn't present some safety risk. And it takes
Getting in the truck.
mindfulness.
What was that?
Just getting in the truck.
Getting
Driving
getting from Montara Sanitary District across the street can be challenging.
Exactly. Anyway, I have taken a note from the newsletter, so I'll see if we can
Thank
get
you.
that in by Friday.
All right, well, thanks again. And again, kudos to the team. Great work, and please keep it up. Let's move on to General Manager's report.
Nothing further to the written report.
Okay, let's see. Scroll back up to the top of this thing. See what else we got here. Okay, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side.
Rick?
We've had like 2 meetings. One, we had a capital improvement project, CIP workshop Friday. That was interesting. I thought it was tense for a while. We were evaluating 5 years of the CIP. The basic summary of the whole thing is that at the time we agreed on the first year to move that forward to the SAM agenda for Monday and evaluate the rest of it as we go, including looking at loans for some of the heavy duty items coming up, like the Montara IPS pipeline replacement and things like that, to actually consider looking at loans which would distribute the cost into the future for future residents also. Some stuff has happened since then, and maybe Catherine knows more than I do, whether this made it to the SAM agenda for Monday. I thought we had agreement, and maybe Granada hasn't agreed to that at this point. So I don't know the exact status of that. Do you have a further update, Catherine? I haven't looked at the agenda for Monday yet.
Granada had some questions, and so the chair of SAM, who is the president of Granada, asked that this not be on the SAM agenda for the 8th. Hopefully it will be on for the next meeting on the 24th, I think it is, 27th, whatever. Peter, I have a question for you. When you're doing a rate study for a district, do you look at the capital improvement program for, if they're in a JPA, for the JPA?
I'm assuming you're saying Peter Medina?
Yes, sorry.
Well, just to be clear, we do not perform any rate studies. That would be a better question for Alex. But if I were, yes, I don't know why you would not take that into account.
It
Okay.
is taken into account, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and that's my concern, is that doing a year-to-year CIP is not good for projecting what your costs are going to be more than 1 year out. And it's not fair to the public, it's not transparent. That said, Half Moon Bay did comment that they had just had a CIP done last year, and so Sam shouldn't be talking about rates, which seemed to me that Sam, and particularly the agency with the largest number of votes, is at fault for not insisting that we have an ongoing 5-year CIP for doing your rate studies. again, it's not transparent, it's not fair to the public. And so I'm hoping that we can get more than a 1-year CIP for SAM. Because each project is approved independently of the CIP. It's simply a planning tool to help with budgets and project expenses.
Are you saying there's a misunderstanding among some that the CIP is somehow approving spending?
It appears that, I'm not sure if that's an understanding or what, but it appears to be somewhat of a problem in getting other agencies to commit for beyond a year. And given the size of some of these projects, it's about $2 million a year, $2 to $3 million a year that SAM is going to need. For us, at 20% of that, it's a significant portion of our sewer budget.
And I don't know if the lawsuit is, hanging over everybody's head, especially Half Moon Bay, if they're not willing to commit to anything beyond the lawsuit, and maybe they want to see what the results of that are before they commit. I don't know. I was almost just impressed that we got a 1-year approval from everybody, because it looks like when it started, there was a lot of back and forth, and we got to the point of approving at least the first year to get that going, and then Granada has had its concerns, so it's going to be put off for a couple more weeks. So
If we're not able to get a longer view from Sam on the CIP, I think, Clemens, to you, I would suggest that maybe we consider assembling what information we have into some understanding of what we believe the SAM 5-year CIP might ought to look like, so that we can do some planning for our own budgeting, assuming those needs are going to be met, and that sooner or later, those chickens are going to come home to roost. I think we should be doing whatever forecasting we can, and I think it might be really interesting to have a document like that, so that at SAM meetings, if someone disagrees, they might have to get specific about how they see it and where they might put the numbers. And I know that might be extra work for us, but we do have a budgeting forecasting opportunity, if you will. And if Sam can't get it together to help us out, then we should still plan. Rick?
yeah, I don't want to say that the 5-year plan was totally ignored. The 5-year plan is presented. What was finally approved to get something going so we could work this year was approval of the first year of the plan. So there is a plan there. It's just not locked in, for all 5 years. And they were looking at some of the major projects that are further out, like the big IPS. And Chuck from Granada suggested we were looking at long-term financing to spread some of the costs out into the future. And he said, well, that might be a great one to look at very specifically for that in the future. So there are items that we could sort of forecast around. It's just the way the meeting was going, we got the first year approved, so stuff could start happening for this year anyway, and get projects moving.
I hope if there's actual real talk about financing it, that someone have the conversation and bring up the topic about whether or not that's just kicking the can down the road. CIP should be funded out of reserves and revenues, not financed, unless you just can't help it. Because all you're doing is you're charging subsequent, you're charging the future for what we need to do today, and we should be planning for that today. I mean, my comment, I'm like, let's plan 5 years out and start saving, and start maintaining the things that might break and doing the other things. And
we're also talking here more about process than anything else, because 5-year CIP is always approved with year 1 as expenditures, and the rest of the year is really a summary of anticipated expenditures,
Exactly.
the plan, to set rates if needed, et cetera, give everybody an idea.
Mhm.
Every year, every subsequent year, the 5-year CIP is changed. A new year 1 is prepared and a new year 5 is prepared. Everything can scoot every year. I attended this SAM board meeting. The managers were invited to participate. We had a clear path on how we would actually get this year 1 up at this next board meeting. So I think we have to look now and talk to Granada and see where this process fell behind. I don't think it's a bigger issue than really just process. We created one so that this could be dealt with on Monday. And, with suggestion of further meetings, et cetera, and none of that happened. So I think, again, when we talk about this with Granada, it's going to come down to, hey, we had an agreement to proceed. What happened? We can tackle this problem, I think, at the next SAM board meeting, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, the agenda for the next SAM board meeting was posted yesterday.
Yes, I mean, in the following SAM board meeting, meaning
Okay.
not on Mondays, but I mean, I'm not sure if we can get it still on there, but that was the agreement that everybody had. So there
Right.
was plenty of opportunity to address questions that would come up, and that wasn't taken advantage of.
That's exactly.
I have a question.
Peter?
Today by email, I received a 2017 CIP project summary. And then shortly thereafter, Clemens sent another CIP spreadsheet. The question is, what are we looking at here? Is this Sam's CIP?
What you're looking at is a set of charts that I worked with Keishan and asked him to help create. He's pretty good at that. I had, after the SAM workshop last Friday, I asked and some of the questions that were raised, I realized that there are some new members on SAM and they were not aware of some of the documents that have been generated at SAM over the last while. So I asked him to send to all of the SAM board members the risk analysis that was done, which you didn't get. We can send them to you. The 2017 CIP, and there was another one. It slipped my mind. And so I was working with him to, the two charts you have, one of them for the 2017 with the 3 colors shows in yellow the projects that were finished, gray are the projects that were deferred, and green are the projects that were put on the 2021 CIP.
I'm a bit confused. I looked at the yellows, which are the current projections, and I looked at the year 2021, and I came to a total of current projects of 1.670 million. Then I look at the 5-year CIP sheet that Clemens sent to me that showed a total of 14 million, but it shows not which part of that goes into the year 2021. And then I looked at our own sewer system capital improvement program that shows 1.985 for the year 2021. So I'm thoroughly confused. I don't know whose CIP those were, and what numbers were.
Two with the yellow and the green and the gray are for SAM, not for Montara.
Yes.
The
I understand.
Montara CIP is completely removed from SAM's CIP.
Yes.
But when I read through the various items, that are listed here, I have a feeling that some of those are in our CIP.
No, so they are all for the SAM system and SAM equipment. They may have,
Peter, can you give us an example of one that?
Well,
like
here I
a-
see a flow meter at Portola pump station. I see flow meter at Montara pump station.
There's
I see,
SAM facilities. It's a sewer
sorry?
authority mid-coast side.
Yeah. Anyhow, it was confusing to me. I didn't realize what that was for.
Yeah, you're going to see some of the same words, but they're in different locations and different ownership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving forward, the rest of SAM, the real meeting we had before that, flow distribution is probably going to get a little more controversial. There's some general studies that are going to come out about evaluating all the flow meters that determine the flows at the SAM plant, which means how much money we pay. Half Moon Bay has been going up, Granada's been going down, and we're pretty much stable. Whoever goes up immediately complains about the meters need to be reevaluated, recalibrated, relocated. We're talking about new meters. So that's probably going to be an interesting discussion item into the future. Historically, years ago when I was on Granada, the meters went bad and Granada got stuck for huge amounts of money. They were eventually fixed, and Granada asked Half Moon Bay to reimburse them for the losses, and Half Moon Bay laughed at them at the time. So that's always controversial, but it's very, very serious because that's how an awful lot of the expenses are distributed. But they'll probably be recalibrating, relocating, buying new meters and a whole bunch of stuff over the near future. The other two items was the wastewater management group, which we call the DAN group, had kind of a open PO for all of last year, spent a lot of money doing lots of diverse projects. This year, it was kind of voted that we're not going to give them an open-ended contract. If they want to specifically bid on specific contracts, Kishin can include them in the bidding process. So just they will become like a normal consultant. They did a lot of work on the BOD issues and budgets and procedures and all of that. But I think the consensus of the board was we need to move to just make them a specific consultant. And if they bid on a specific project, that's fine. And the other big project was Amoresco, which originally came in as a massive solar powered energy reduction, massive project that would save us so much money. We could replace all kinds of equipment. It was a monster project. As it evolved, they decided, well, the gains they were proposing weren't really going to happen. The project kept being cut back. It's essentially been stopped. It was about to be canceled and just moved to the future, but Amoresco made another proposal. We would like to make one more proposal for next meeting. If we cancel out their project, there's a $60,000 fee for doing all the work they did. Instead of spending $60,000 then, they said, fine. The board voted to push it off a month and see what they want to come back at the next meeting and say. It was an interesting thing with massive solar panels and turbines and all kinds of fun things to save energy and replace a bunch of equipment, but it basically collapsed over time.
So did we committed to the $60,000 expense?
That was part of the contract.
the initial contract.
The initial contract that was initially looked really good.
That was not contingent on them providing something that would return more than that to the agency?
I'm guessing no.
I
No.
would ask that someone take a look at that. I can't imagine signing something like that without putting the caveat in there for making sure that it has material value. Otherwise, they can just come in, spend spend up a bunch of billable hours and walk away doing nothing.
They did analysis of the needs of the wastewater treatment plant. They sent engineers in and other things like that. What they did offer is that the aeration basins, with this BOD, we have two large bubble aeration basins and one fine one small bubble and one and one that is not usable. The fine one has not been cleaned for 24 years, nor been able to be worked on. It needs to be done. We don't have the capacity for these kinds of BOD problems with the aeration basin configuration we've got. What Keishan is recommending is we get 4 aeration basins, and two with the large bubbles and 2 with the fine bubbles, because it all depends on the oxygenation of the water. If we went to 4 fine bubbled ones when we need them, we would be able to handle these kinds of BOD incidents without having any kind of regulatory agency issues. As it is, we've been exceeding those inputs or those regulatory agency levels, and we are looking at regulatory agency action, which could be a problem.
Well, I'd like to get some kind of summary of the tangible results that we think might justify paying this amount. I'm skimming through a presentation they made back in 19, and it's slideware.
It's all, yeah.
So, is it more than slideware, or did we get tangible benefit? I'd be really interested to see how Keishan stands on that, because we're going to be asked to, this is a sizable check.
That is a big chunk.
So Catherine, the fact that the wet weather project is being delayed, is this how are the state regulators eyeing this? Are they?
This isn't the wet weather project,
No.
Jim. This is their aeration basins in the plant itself.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We-
Wet weather is
You
going.
jumped topic.
Wet weather is going forward. We won
James
that
going
one.
to what he wants to ask about. Go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I thought you were through with the aeration project.
Oh, no. So the wet weather project, the storage basins.
The wet weather project has been roped off. The contractors are gearing up. Signs are up all around the area. It's moving forward.
It's moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, it's been approved by everybody, locked in, it's gone.
Do we know a date for groundbreaking,
I don't remember the actual date.
roughly?
Real soon. It's,
Okay.
Are you
I think
looking
it's
for,
probably
are you
weather
looking
permitting.
for fancy cookies?
I couldn't hear you.
Cookies.
I will inkjet print my own cookies this time. Thank you.
Yeah, with Zoom, it's not the same.
Yeah. We'll bake the cookies here. We'll eat the cookies here, and we'll show you pictures of them, and you can complain about how much I spent on it.
That's Sam.
Maybe I'll buy a 3D printer and 3D print my own cookies and tell you
Ooh, there we go.
I have $10,000 cookies.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, Mid-Coast Community Council. Catherine or Greg?
Greg, why don't
Greg?
you go for it since you're
I
here?
don't know how much detail you want. So let me go overboard, and you guys can give me feedback later that in future meetings, you don't need to hear everything, okay? I have been able to get Horsley's assistant to prepare a written report, and I believe I forwarded it to you all with information about how to get the vaccine or how to register for the waiting list. If the board members don't have an email from me, that explains the links that the county has promulgated to try and sign up for the vaccine. Please let me know by return email. You should have gotten it earlier this evening.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, so that written report is something that I'm gonna, if you're interested, let me know, and I can try and have Lena, who's Horsley's assistant, include you guys on the distribution list. So you'll have a quick way if you want to know what's going on at the county. We got a new child care ordinance coming to try and foster the creation of more child care facilities. Connect the Coast Side came out with a 200-page report, and it has to be reviewed pretty soon. My editorial comment is the planning group was responsive to the needs of the community, but the entire effort was created for a world that no longer exists, given what's happening with COVID. And the entire traffic surveys and everything ought to be redone. And unfortunately, I view a lot of what they've done as not really viable. That's my personal opinion. There's too much light coming out of the El Granada Fire Station. It turns out there's a lack of enforcement. They violated some kind of review process, and so people are complaining about that. The Medio Bridge analysis is going to come out at the MCC at the next meeting and go to the Coastal Commission. That's a big deal to people who use the bridge. And off the top of my head, that's it. I might have forgotten one other. Oh, the pump track. If you care about the pump track, the county is going to be breaking ground pretty soon on that bicycle path, park path. Go ahead, Rick.
Greg, you might want to make comments. I listened to it also on your recommendation about Horsley's comments about consolidation into Half Moon Bay.
Well, that's going to be part of an article I'm going to write, and
Okay.
you just got an email. You just got an email from me on that minutes ago, so you can
I'm
get
back
back
up.
to me. All right.
The
That of course, that's a big deal, and I've already raised at the MCC. Why hasn't the MCC taken a position on the lawsuit? You know, because of the Brown Act, I can't discuss it with every board member, but I push that in the strategic planning thing. Oh, that's the other major thing. I think we all know. Half Moon Bay came to the MCC meeting and announced there's a meeting going to be coming up, I think next week, where they're going to look toward, they have a word, recovery.
I think it's
there's a kind of a-
February 11.
Right. It's going to be a kind of a come together thing and help the region recover.
A coastside recovery.
Right. And so my comment to somebody was, they're still suing us. What's going on here? So I think we need to have, by we, I mean El Granada and Montara, need to have some thoughts about what we're going to say and do, maybe before, maybe after that meeting. But I can't see not dealing with the lawsuit in the context of this. And I made the point, which I have not made to Horsley, that by giving them a waiver on their payment of the library debt service, he's essentially funding their lawsuit against us.
Yep.
He's giving them the money to keep suing us.
They also saved Half Moon Bay and the Beechwood thing when they were about to just become unincorporated. The county has saved them twice.
At
Well,
least.
you'll have to tell me more about that. I understood it was an insurance payment.
Well, it
Made
was
them whole
both.
on Beechwood.
The insurance helped, but I think
Okay.
the county.
All right, email me that too. I don't mean to take the board's time.
Sure.
If there are any other questions, let me know. If there's anything you want me to bring up at the MCC, let me know.
I will bring it up, and I would like you to bring it up, but I have heard the word assessment used as part of this extravagant highway project. It's a highway project that has stop signs on Main Street and sidewalks and all kinds of stuff. And the project document does not talk about how it's going to be paid for. It hasn't talked about what it is even in this year's dollars. It's an absurdly low amount of money that they are using. And I believe the MCC and the public should be outraged and should say to the county, until we know exactly what it is we're spending in today's dollars, so we, and in future dollars, and how it's being paid for, don't give us all this nonsense about grants. You're not going to cover that much money in grants.
All right, two things. A, please bring your voice and your passion
I
to
will
the
do that.
MCC meeting where we do discuss it with the planning department. Second, I brought this up months ago. They did listen to us. They removed from the current draft the concept of charging the new joiners X and the residents Y. The only thing that's left is charging the new joiners. So to your point, yes, it's a lot of money and it's probably not realistic that they're going to get it from grants, but at least they heard we didn't want to pay for it. Now, keeping them from doing that is another problem. And Horsley has mentioned special assessment districts for the residents around the Medio Bridge and something else recently.
Jeez.
So it's clear the county is aware that certain regions have unique vulnerabilities and maybe ought to be paying for those. And I think that the concept that the coast ought to be paying for this set of stuff is still in their minds, but the planning group that Joe Leclerc heads pulled it out of the current draft. Okay, so it doesn't talk about assessing existing residents right now.
Okay, I'm going to throw something in quick about the Medio Bridge, because the Medio Bridge went in just after I met Rick, which was somewhere in the mid-90s. Not the bridge itself, but the riprap for a what became a hotel but was called a private residence. No, it was supposed to be a bed and breakfast. It became a private residence with riprap put in. That's what
In
the
commercial
county,
zoning.
in commercial zoning, and this is what the county is asking the residents to pay for. A project they allowed that screwed everything up, and now once again the residents have to pay for it.
Oh,
All right, so
I understand there's a
Lisa
mid-coast
Ketchum is
council
done.
meeting. Hang on, guys. I understand there's a mid-coast council meeting coming up. I encourage all of this to head that direction. Let's bring it back. Let's go to the CSDA report.
I have one more comment to the
Comments?
traffic study
Oh, please.
real briefly. We had, I'm gonna call it a utilities meeting with the planning department staff under Joe. That is the planners that are in charge of the Connect the Coast Side study. And when I say utilities, that is the Sewer Authority, Mid-Coast Side, and Montara Water and Sanitary District as participants, making sure that we talk also about all other utilities, PG&E, Coast Side County Water District, for example, that could be affected. What we heard from the planners there was word by word that the community will not pay for any relocation of facilities that comes along with this plan.
Wait, you said the county will not.
The community,
No, the community.
Oh, the community.
but the county instead is planning to finance this all through grants. Let's see how this works, right? Through other means. And we were ensured that none of the cost will be passed down to the community. And it was stated that this would be now written into the report so that there will be a utility section that also speaks about the cost. So let's see.
I will check on that. I will check on that, Clemens, but I do believe, I mean, I passed on your concerns to them. When was your meeting with them?
3 days ago, 3 days ago.
Okay, so they're following up on me bringing this issue to their attention about a week or 10 days ago, because you brought it to my attention. The main thing is it means their cost estimates are totally
Correct. Correct. I basically said,
fantastical.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have enough information, so the plan is also to work closely together once there is plans available.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to come up with cost estimates, but right now, when I look at this, I'm going to say, well, we just don't know how much the cost is, but it could be in the tens of millions of dollars. for
Yep,
utility
and
location.
what they said to me or in writing was some projects may get canceled because of this, as they discover what the real costs are. So that may mean, for example, the roundabouts get abandoned if it involves too much water and sewer work.
Yes, that's the understanding that we have as well.
All right, Rick, you're on for CSDA.
A couple things, one big item, the quickies. Josh Cosgrove has from Pacifica region has been our president for about 3 or 4 years now. He followed me for about the same term. He said it's time for somebody else to come in. We elected Katie Martin, who is the LAFCO alternate, as chapter president, and she will now be running all the meetings. The big item on the agenda was, I think I mentioned this before, the situation around the East Palo Alto Sanitary District. The quick summary is that a region was scheduled for an MSR, a municipal services review, for like June. The city of East Palo Alto and some developers came up with a master huge plan of development. They went to the district and said, here's our plan. The district said, well, that's going to cost you some humongous amount of money because the pipes are all, you're tripling the volumes. They said, well, that's okay. We expect that you will pass that cost on to all of your current customers. I got angry at the LAFCO meetings, the last 2 meetings, and spoke to the legal issues and defending them. They've accelerated their MSR, which is going to be paid by the developers. Another red flag. This is crazy stuff is happening. There are other projects being added. They're talking about humongous increases to the local residents in East Palo Alto, not the richest city in the county. It's kind of just a massive confusion. We had a couple reps talk about this at the meeting. The LAFCO version of this was when this was passed and the approved to accelerate the MSR, with which both Josh and I voted against, because last year we finally created an MSR calendar and they immediately trashed it by accelerating this one up. The MSR will go through. My point at the meeting, I tried to enforce the fact that I demand that they include in the MSR the legal sanitary district codes that say what a sanitary district can and can't do, one of which is not pay for all the developers' costs. At our meeting, Josh Cosgrove from Pacifica said, I've been on districts for 13 or 14 years and we have never paid all the developer expenses. I mentioned Granada and Montara never paid developer expenses. It's gotten nasty. The sides are fighting each other. I've pushed for mediation. My current philosophy is I'm trying to get everything in the MSR that we possibly can. So when a draft comes out, we can analyze it a little bit. It's so bad that, oh, well, that's happening. So we have this huge business apartment development. We want that in there too. So there isn't even a list of all the projects and the effects and all of this. It's just the developers in the city of East Palo Alto seem to be trying to take out the district. They seem to be following their rules. Their accusations of not enough maintenance, not enough repairs. They have significant reserves, I found out. So my impression is it's going to the MSR, and my hope at this point is the MSR is balanced. If it isn't, when the draft comes out, all hell's going to break loose. I've had some general comments about MSRs for the last 10 years. Their primary focus seems to be wiping out special districts as fast as they can. My best example is the Broadmoor Police Department, which is right beside Daly City or South San Francisco. Every single time an MSR goes through, it's, well, look at this. Yeah, just merge it in. At the last LAFCO hearing, I don't know how many people showed up from that district, but the basic comment was politely, keep your hands off our effing district and just go away. Just leave us alone up here. We're perfectly happy. And we got a lot of good feedback from the other special districts. I think this is something, if a bad MSR comes out, I'm going to ask for every district in our chapter, of which there are about 25 or so, write letters in support. Once we know all the facts, I don't think anybody is pure in this. This is the kind of thing 4 or 5 people should have gotten in a meeting and resolved the issue, says we'll compromise here, we were going to replace this pipe and come up with a final solution. That doesn't appear to be happening. And there are obstinate people in the district, just as there are obstinate people everywhere else. I'm hoping that comes out, but this is pretty critical for special districts, I think, in the county. The other item, which we're very familiar with on the coast, is RCD. RCD had proposed, when they got set up, there were lots of little, what they call donut holes in the industrial areas like downtown Half Moon Bay that were excluded from their sphere of influence. They've talked that we do projects there too. And it was just the way it was set up. So the proposal was wipe out all these little teeny donut holes and let them pretty much work anywhere on the coast. That was kind of approved and going. And then they asked for, well, we also do lots of projects up on top of the watershed down to 280. And they said, while we're doing this, why don't you just expand us, because we do lots of projects there too. Everybody said fine. And boom, it was approved 7-0. So there was just humongous supports for our local RCD, which is based right here in Half Moon Bay. And, you know, we participate in all the wet weather stuff and the first flushes. So they got a lot of community support for them. And that was, you know, the good stuff that was happening.
Catherine?
On East Palo Alto, I believe, given the income, particularly of the long-term residents and the demographics, that it's an environmental justice concern. And I think that needs to be raised early and often.
No,
Because
I don't have the actual numbers, but the jump for every member in Palo Alto was, I'll use the term, obscene.
yeah, I
It was
believe
beyond reason. And
putting
if that
this,
doesn't blow the whole project up, nothing will. They
well,
threw in affordable housing as part of it. The sewer district is blocking affordable housing, and
this
it's
is environmental justice. It
Yep.
needs to be brought up by the members of the community and of the board itself. The board is elected to serve the people who are in East Palo Alto by the people in East Palo Alto. This is an effort to deprive the people of East Palo Alto of their voting rights, of their right to self-government, and of their money. And I think that it needs to be raised as a serious issue.
I've got one more local comment on this.
I wanted to pitch in a comment as
Oh,
well,
sure.
Rick, and
Go.
mine's short. It sounds like a gift of public funds. That's
the exact phrase they're using.
And that's illegal. There might also, well, that's the one to start with, I think.
Or
your first comment?
theft of public funds, since the sewer district's objecting.
So my final comment, because I'm sure you folks all know Harvey Rarbach from Half Moon Bay, who is now a permanent member of LAFCO. At the end, when we were actually voting on this, I pressed hard to say, I demand that the MSR include a complete analysis of the California Sanitary District Code, specifically in these things. So as what Scott said, that's all clearly defined in the MSR. And it went around and I got some reasonable support. It got to Harvey, and I don't have the exact quote with me. I'm not going to run in my other room and get it. But it was essentially, no, I'm voting against that addendum because I don't think the legality is relevant in this case. And that's a quote I will send around to everybody. There was like somebody in the audience gagged when he said that. I don't know who it was, but he basically said, I'm not concerned about the legality in this issue.
I'm
And
wondering
that's on the tape, and I've got the point in the tape.
I'm wondering if you couldn't make sure to get a reference to that to Michelle.
I believe that I can, just send it out to everybody here and say, don't respond to any of this. This is just information I'm sending out to you.
As
I'll
well
give you-
as, include members of the public, so Greg Diegas and Michelle, and members of the Mid-Coast Council, because Harvey has been spending a lot of time at the Mid-Coast Council.
And he has been using public time on his council to every moment process for, push for consolidation, or as we say, takeover. So
Yeah, but the legality of it probably doesn't matter, right? Okay.
we don't care about legal
Just in case
issues.
that
in this.
sarcasm didn't get through, let me label that as sarcasm. And with that, let's go to the LAFCO report. That was the LAFCO report.
LAFCO pretty much included everything I just said. It was
Yeah.
pretty much the little stuff fine, but it was RCD. Everybody loved them, gave them everything they want, and I think that's fine.
So if we changed our name to RCD, maybe our lives would get simpler.
Yeah.
Let's go to
the
the
whole
turns.
thing about and again, the thing that concerned me the most about the developer said, since it was accelerated, LAFCO said, well, you developers have to pay for it. Great, the developers are paying for the MSR.
So
I'll just
Uh,
leave that for what you can think about.
let's go now to attorney's report, please.
No attorney's report, President Boyd.
And director's reports.
No,
And
I will say I've been working with Keishan, developing these graphs on the CIP. I think it's important for planning purposes that Sam revisit the 5-year CIP every year or two so the districts can plan and budget for these necessary spending.
okay, thank you. And Clemens, I apologize. I was just working through the packet and I came across general manager's report. So we've already done that one. So with that, do we have any items that we want to talk about future agenda items for now? No, okay. We are going to do a brief recess and then return for closed session. So members of the public, thank you very much for attending. Look forward to seeing you on online. And with that, we are in recess. Let's do a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.